Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me just say, and I love you all back. Let me just say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for. But hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright as long as we never give up and as long as we keep fighting. Welcome to the EMS Wizard podcast, where we have Terry and myself, because much like the rest of America, we have been abandoned. I come to you, we come to you actually in this episode, defeated in our venture to progress further and make podcasts great again. I don't know why we didn't receive not a single vote in the recent election.
And
Uh,
that's a troubling factor because we didn't even vote for ourselves.
I looked at the issues.
And you couldn't stand. I think this is what I think is up. Is you knew it was a 4-year commitment. And and you were like, dog, I want that 1 year pin. Can I get a pin after a year?
Well, I think it had a little bit also to do with I don't think they were going to let me stay at home. Also important. Um, but I harken back to the last rally me and you did, and I found ourselves standing on the back of that tractor trailer just before security told us we couldn't stand there anymore.
That's
Thinking
what I was
about
gonna say.
why are we talking to these goats in this field? You know, I I knew then that it was trouble. It was going to be some trouble. So as I sat up that night watching everything sort of shift one direction or the other, and everybody was waiting on Pennsylvania, I knew without Pennsylvania, we didn't have a path.
I
So
tell you, you had your eyes on Pennsylvania, which is weird because things you're normally not accused of being the Yankee, but I had my eyes on Texas, and that's where I was looking to, what would the Lone Star State do?
it did get me to thinking though, as to what why aren't there more paramedics in politics? Um, and I got to thinking about who is in politics, and the I guess the current. And when I say current, I probably mean the last 10 years. So maybe that's not so current, but you know, I don't think politics is something that is, at least the way I was raised. I'm sure the way you were raised. It's not nothing. It's not something that you necessarily sit down and talk about, and then we have a president that came in that was not a politician and became popular, even if the country was divided by it, became popular and made non-politicians, uh, you know, sort of ushered in this conversation of we can talk politics now. And I won't say it's cool, but it certainly made it comfortable. And the reason I say that is because that is the way it happened. It made me think, well, if a celebrity could do it, who I think we would all agree with, I don't know that anybody flips on the TV and says, "Man, I wonder who Kevin Costner's voting for because that's going to sway my opinion." Because if that's the case, then all you listeners out there, why didn't we get a vote from you? Why didn't you knew which way we were leaning? We were definitely leaning towards ourselves, even though anyway, paramedics, more down to earth type people, and I guess I shouldn't say paramedics, but EMS, seeing life as it is, as it's lived out on a day to day basis, makes me wonder, why aren't there more EMS people in politics? It seems like they would navigate that far better. What do you think? Do you think EMS people EMS minded people would do well in politics, or they would not do well.
Now, this is what I'm thinking is I know you've missed a couple of episodes, and I'm thinking
Y'all have had episodes without me?
some great ones, some the bigliest episodes you've ever seen. They're huge, and so
Some of us
I'm
had to be on the campaign trail. So
for all the good,
yeah.
for all the good. The campaign trail nicknames.
I mean,
Anyways,
somebody had to speak out against Woe versus Raid. So
there was a lot of tears on your trail. So what I'm thinking is that you have suffered a head injury, and that's the real reason. That's the real reason John's been propped up in the background. We've just seen some social media posts, but nobody's really seen him. I haven't seen you in a long time. So
you didn't come to Cherokee.
uh, probably I've been
Cherokee
talking
Nation
talking with
notice.
AI, or
No,
I've been
no
talking
note.
with AI when I talk with you on the phone. That's why you didn't talk to me for that week or two, probably.
Probably.
I don't know. I think I think that is a good question. Why EMS folks? Because if you look at law enforcement, there's a good number of law enforcement folks that are in
Military.
elected offices, from county commissioners, mayors, um, a little bit from the fire service. But EMS, I don't, I mean, I could speculate on a couple of things that are all, is it because they're busy working 28 jobs and they don't have time for it? Is it that they have a lot of skeletons in their closet, or do they not have the patience, just a little patience?
So I'm glad you asked that
Yeah.
question. So to correlate that, you have to ask yourself the question, why do politicians leave where they're at to get into politics to begin with? Now, I would say maybe there's some out there that have a purpose and they want to do something, to make a change, and they're pushed into that role, or they feel they have a lot of support, so they go into that role. But they usually have a cause of some sort. I that's where I think paramedics stop, because I don't know that paramedics really carry the flag of a lot of causes. All right, because they have to be so flexible and you know flexible
You have to
and
be,
compliant.
you have to work well with so many others. And uh, I think there's some concern of the decisiveness. However, I had forgotten about this. A guy that I worked with a couple of years ago ran for a North Carolina office, a representative, senator, something like that, for a whole jag of counties. And when he would show up, and I think a lot of places in North Carolina and America are this way. Well, if you're that red candidate, well, don't talk to me because I only vote blue. Or if you're that blue candidate, then don't talk to me because I only vote red. And he ended up losing. It's like Titanic. Let me give you the end of the story before it even happens. But he lost by a pretty narrow margin. And one of the things that he talked about out on his campaign trail was, hey, we need to work together because we need to put North Carolinians first, and we need to work through these issues. And let you tell me, I'm going to be your elected representative. And I think some folks might struggle with that. And I think in today's environment, that some folks, that just doesn't carry well with them.
So I looked up, and when I say looked up, I mean I Googled, and I didn't, not a chat GPT Google, just a general Google, why do people end up leaving EMS, just to get some national, not North Carolina specific, because we were looking at it from a national lens. Why do paramedics in general leave jobs? Now we see a lot of memes out there that say this and that and that old hat, but let's just look at what at least a basic Google would say. And then I'll relate it to politics. And in typical fashion, you have no idea what I'm about to say or the things I'm
No.
about to say. So, it's just like we always do. You're going to get this
Yeah.
information firsthand while we're here. So, the first thing that comes up is probably the game changer. And
What do you
that
mean,
says
probably? Oh, okay. But
And
you're
I
going to
used
say this is the first thing that probably comes up because I'm just making it up.
no. I got it pulled up here. I would share my screen, but I have, other stuff up here that you probably don't want to see. Um,
No.
Paramedics may leave their job for a variety of reasons. The top reason is low pay. That by itself may be enough to get into politics. Didn't like one candidate spend $1 billion? I mean, I don't guess that's making money, but somebody gave $1 billion, and then the other one spent half that, maybe. I don't know, but there's money in politics, I suppose. So, um,
Wait, what did you do with our donations? The people that donated money for us running for what did you do with that?
I fed the goats just like they asked me to when they gave me the money.
I don't think that was a campaign. Anyways, continue, please.
The So low pay is one of those reasons that people get out of EMS. So I don't know if I get out of EMS due to I don't make enough money, that I turn really quick to politics and say, hey, I think I'm going to run on this ticket. So another one is lack of advancement. That was the number two reason. So I guess now here's the deal. Now this kind of starts coming into our wheelhouse because I consider us a little bit I don't like using the word subject matter expert, but I mean subject matter opinionated on leadership and management, I guess we could say. Someone might hear us. I don't know if they listen, but
No, hopefully not.
if the lack of advancement, if someone's leaving EMS due to the lack of advancement, that may be by design, right? So these aren't the people we would want necessarily running, because if you couldn't even get promoted as easy as sometimes it can be to get promoted inside of your organization, then maybe we don't want you running or whatnot. But
I mean,
it's telling to make it,
I
because
don't
it's
know.
like I'm just going to take my stuff and go home. If I can't be promoted, I'm just going to quit. I don't know if that's what I want in a leader in politics.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I don't know about that because look at. I say all, maybe not all, just most of the places that you have worked over the years, with a couple exceptions, whether it was your predecessor or your subordinate, your direct subordinate, or even your direct supervisor. I don't know. Sometimes some folks are just there for a long time. Some people like to hold on to stuff. I don't know about that one.
Well, I mean,
I don't disagree completely, but I don't agree completely.
presidents don't just quit, right? I mean, when have you ever heard of a president that's like, I'm going to run for president, and then they're like, nah, I'm just kidding, I'm not going to do it, and then they like get somebody else, like their vice president, to run instead? Who does that? Nobody does that, right? Paramedics certainly wouldn't do that. It's not. It's too soon for that.
Yeah, yeah, that's too.
Oh, let's see. Let's strike one.
Yeah, yeah.
But the third reason paramedics leave jobs, another third reason is it says stress and burnout. Now, I think we should identify what stress is, because when we say stress, and are we talking about yesterday's stress or today's stress? Because remember, we went through a whole thing to where the stress that you and I went through coming up actually had to do with bad calls, maybe here and there. Then it transitioned to the stress of the calls that I'm running, they don't need ambulances for, so I don't feel like I'm using my skill set. Then COVID happened, and in the name of stress, a lot of people got out because, I mean, fill in the blank. Why I don't want to do it anymore because of COVID. So we have those reasons of like true, too many bad calls, then not enough bad calls, or we're getting called out for the wrong reason, and then COVID. What, what is the stress, or is that what they call the burnout? I don't like using the word burnout for that particular thing, but what's just what's stress to you? What do you think when people say I'm stressed and I'm going to get out of EMS? What do you think that stressor is? I don't
I
like.
think it's I think it's a cumulative stress. Because if I'm a politician and I vote the wrong way, I don't know. I guess people have died for that wrong vote, but I don't know how many I don't know how many times people voted for stuff last year. Hold on, maybe I'll pull my Google up and say probably 12 times because I did read a thing or listen to something on national public radio because that's the exciting stuff I listen to when you're not around to talk to me, NPR, about the number of bills passed in recent years. I, when I hear stress, I think some of it is that cumulative stress. Or think about it, as a paramedic, you only have to get a 70%, or is it 80%? I don't even know what the test score is now, but
It
you have
ain't
to
done
get
that.
yeah, huh?
It's not done that way anymore.
I don't, whatever. You
But
have to get a 70%. That's because I'm old. You have to get a 70% on your Scantron sheet that when you had to drive to some community college on the other side of the state. Oh, wait, never mind. But
so do you,
how many jobs when you take that test though, if they ask you, and I know they've changed it and it's based on whatever percentage or number or some total number
no,
that if you get
it's how
80
hard the questions are. You can get enough hard
whatever.
questions right that it cuts off with the time.
Stupid. Yeah, if you get right answer on 80 questions, and even though you've only taken 81, then congratulations, you've passed. But it's not like I take a 150 question test because that takes us back, and I have to get all 150 questions right. But as a paramedic, you have to get everything right. Hey, I'm assessing this patient. I'm reading this 12 lead EKG. Oh, sorry, ma'am, I failed that part of class. If you were delivering a baby, I'll be your huckleberry. And so for me, I think that's some of the stress that 100% of the time you have to be right. You have to be correct. You have to be able to direct your team. You have to have the correct amount of empathy to make the right transport decisions, the right treatment decisions. That to me is when I talk about the stress. And I think that cumulative stress effect. Every day you're putting a pebble in your backpack. And hey, that's no big deal. But at the end of your 1 year tour, when you throw your backpack away, well, that backpack's heavy.
Do you think, well, and to my point on that is I think the stress of EMS, whether you're able to navigate it or not, to me, would prepare you better for politics, especially with the background of being having to deal, or not, I don't want to say deal with, but having to be so adaptive and flexible to the society and the politics inside of EMS, the rank and file, just the policies in general, understanding that the interaction you have with medical facilities or medical directors, and then, even in an instruction side to know what the new crowd comes in as an instructor dealing with, with the bureaucracy that comes with being an instructor and having to teach the new. To me, that if you're tired of those things, I think you're well prepared for politics. Just because, look, you've got a lot of, unless you sucked at those things, if you sucked at dealing with those things, maybe you're not
Then,
getting
yeah,
out of EMS. Not on this list as getting fired. Why did people leave EMS? Because they got fired. That's not on here.
it should be.
But it's not, at least not in those words. The fourth thing on the list says work-life balance, and I think y'all attributed a whole episode to. I don't think y'all meant to, but somehow work-life balance came out of an episode, and I don't know that you talked a whole lot, but I don't know that you got to any answers on the work-life balance thing, because I think it started with there's no such thing, and then disproved that the entire episode by showing different ways that one has to balance their work and their life, or be cognizant of it. But so not getting fired. And then so in the aspect to the argument that you guys were making episode or so ago about work-life balance,
Oh,
the
there's a point to this rant. Oh, okay,
there
cool.
yeah, there's always a point. Um, I think you look at something like politics, that's made for EMS. If you are truly engrossed in your job and you're finding yourself EMS, like you guys said, you're working your full-time job. Oh, and now I'm off, except for now I'm going to work my part-time EMS job doing something else, or I'm teaching something EMS related. I'm doing something to continue EMSing. Is that, to me, that suits that suits politicians, right? Who live that? I mean, they don't cut that stuff off. They don't say, "Hey, I'm stopped being a politician today." You're a politician. It's like I say when you become a paramedic. You're always a paramedic. You live your life that way. You do all the stuff and things that come with being a paramedic. As a politician, can you ever not be one? Can you ever
No,
not be a politician?
I think you have to be one all the time. I saw a buddy of mine, county commissioner, ran into him in the grocery store at like 11:30 at night on July 3rd.
Like battery.
I don't know,
You know,
like 2018, 2019 or
running this
something like
mission
that. Yeah, and so he was with his wife, who's actually also an elected official, and I was with my wife, who
is not
is
elected.
not an elect, yeah, not an elected
I
official,
am the
Mrs. Sheehy.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
you're what?
I'm down the
Hmm?
list. I'm not on her best friend. It could be with the recent reels I've been sending her on. She doesn't respond, so I know she watches. You should, yeah.
She got you blocked. She probably
No, she
got you.
gets them.
So I saw him, and it's like 11:30 at night, and this sounds like some sort of bad movie. We're in the produce section, walking into the deli, and he and I stop and have this conversation, and his wife just turns and just keeps right on going. And my wife stops for about 15 seconds and realizes, oh, these boys are going to be talking for a couple of minutes, and she just walked off. And it's like our wives are now grocery shopping while I'm having this political discussion with him about some stuff at 11 o'clock, 11:30, whatever time. It was late, and it was a 24-hour grocery store when that was still a thing. And so I don't think you ever are off as a politician, but that's probably not too dissimilar, because if you're the chief of a county EMS agency, you're the director of a county EMS agency, you're never not that chief, you're never not that director. So I think there's some parallels and similarities with that, but I think that level of commitment can be intimidating.
Well, I think you brought up one of the things I'm trying to say is that it takes a politician to be a chief, right? You're going to learn that whether you like it or not. You're having
Absolutely.
to deal with that. I don't want to say you're having to deal with, but you're finding yourself presenting things to county managers, county commissioners, answering those questions, potentially going out, shaking hands, kissing babies at different
Yeah.
events and stuff where you're running around with those. So to me, you're running that politics game, but you don't find a lot of EMS people going into politics. And the reason that I bring all of that up is we have a lot of gripes about things that are broken that can be fixed politically. So,
The only thing that we hate more in EMS than the way things are right now is make that change. That's
right.
the only thing. That's the only thing we hate more than
But that's old. That's Generation X. That's millennials. I don't think Gen Z thinks that way. I don't think Gen Z is afraid to change. Honestly, I think they have a different mentality on that. I think
I
they
don't know
look
if
at it
Gen
as
Z cares enough.
yeah, but even if they don't care enough, that means they are not opposed to change because I don't care change, right? Whereas X and Z millennials are going to be they're going to care. They're going to care. Wait, well, we're making this change for what? What's happening here? What's going on? Well, we're doing this. Why we doing? Well, wait a minute. We need to look at it holistically at what kind of negative things can happen in this change or whatever.
I think I'm a I think I'm a Zennial. I think you're leaving me out.
Okay. Well, maybe that's why our campaign didn't go so well. Um, just to wrap up the other things in that top list of why people leave
Of
EMS, they
course,
have
blame me.
career change is on there at number five. Um,
Best friend
which
change is what I'd probably
I
need.
mean, they just somehow one day a paramedic just wants to do something different. I guess that can happen, but usually those that have went into the field and have given 2 years of their time to become what they are, um, I mean, something usually happens negatively that makes them all of a sudden want to do a career change. But okay, the other one is further education. Blows my mind. I guess maybe in the Duke UNC NC State triangle there, we see a lot between Durham Tech, Wake Tech, um, that we see a lot of those students there that are in med school go to. There was an EMT class many moons ago at Duke University. They probably still have those, but I remember I used to teach the Duke University EMT class there. And
What?
you didn't know that?
You used to teach at Duke.
Yeah, Duke sucks. But the the class was on their campus. I would haul all this equipment up there. It was on the second floor of some building over there on the Duke campus, and all these Duke students who are in med school would come and take EMT. And I'm talking about 25, 30 kids coming in there. And David Silfen, who is long since retired from Orange County EMS and used to be program director at Durham Tech, cool dude,
Great guy. Great guy.
used to
Yeah.
say, used to say all the time, I love pissing all the parents off because I talk their kids out of being doctors and becoming paramedics. And it was true. There's lots of kids that ended up working for like Orange County and Wake County and Durham County in that area that their parents had them set to be docs. And thank you, to different
Thank
programs
you.
like David
Thank
Silver,
you,
for instance,
John Wilson.
would turn them into EMS people. And it's like,
Yeah.
why do you want to go make $150,000 when you can make $29,000 a year as a paramedic?
Yeah.
It made sense, I guess, to them. But anyway, so there's a lot of people out there that do, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm in the research triangle a lot that I see people progressing their education as paramedics. But, Western Carolina, they get all those folks that, distance learning to educate. So I don't see furthering education as hampering a paramedic from being an EMS person. So I don't know about number 6 of
But
I'm going to stop being a paramedic.
but I think it, like, if you look at the numbers are made up, and so if only we had somebody that was familiar with Western Carolina University here to talk about like the campus program, those campus students, a large number of them, and I'm making this statistic up, just like Dr. Google does sometimes. I don't know how many of them really go into working on the street versus how many are using that, let's call it what it is, pre-med degree to go do something or another.
Right. And that's another thing that comes to mind is and I don't remember who I was talking to, because over the last month, we've had everything from Leadership Academy, the EMS at the OBX, the EMS at Cherokee, and in between their officer classes, and our real jobs. So I have talked to somebody along the way that has actually mentioned that they've seen an influx of applications of people who are degree level, they've got the papers, right? But they don't have the street knowledge to go with it. So there's this subset
There's a
of
gap.
people. There's this subset of people that are out there.
I think we almost talked about that in one episode that you weren't with us, and I said if only John had been here to talk about the gap.
Yeah. So now, so my question comes as, I don't know if I'm an educator anymore like that, but as an administrator, at least, of education.
I call you an educator.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
my question would be is that, do we want those type of people teaching? Maybe that's what they're supposed to do. Maybe old paramedics that leave and become program directors isn't necessarily the thing. That people who are trained in academia to be teachers, to teach those things, go in the classroom or in the office to administrate those things. I mean, when you think about specifically COAMPS, I mean, in everything that COAMPS says, none of it says thou shalt be a paramedic to oversee the program.
I yield to you as the subject matter expert in that area, but
that's worth a Google, I would say.
Let me go to Chat GPT and see.
I mean, I think you have to show that, but what happens if I lost my paramedic tomorrow? And trust me, that is possible with some of the, anyway, then I don't know that I lose my ability to oversee from COAMP. Now, Office EMS, they're going, they will, because, one's tied to the other. But I think they put so much focus on academia that that it doesn't, the paramedic part doesn't matter so much as do the other stuff. Far as administration goes. Not in the classroom. I ain't talking about in the classroom. I'm talking about I don't need a paramedic to be a clinical coordinator. I don't need, maybe that's worth a question. Do I need a paramedic that's a clinical coordinator? Do I need a paramedic that's a program director in the aspect of being able to do it? To have been a paramedic once before, is that enough? That might be a whole episode onto itself or whatever. Anyway, it doesn't change the fact or answer the things of why are there not more paramedics in politics? We'd get more votes that way. Last two things on the list were retirement. They just retire out. I literally can count on one hand how many people I know that have retired from EMS.
It's because you're not anywhere long enough.
No, 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 no. And the one that I can count was at the very first agency I was at. I think I know two people from that. And that was in Rockingham County. And I know two people that actually retired from EMS there. And I think Rockingham County has like a group therapy session where they get together once a month, it seems like, at a local restaurant, and they talk about the old days. And I'm now, old enough to where I could be in that group and talk about old days if I wanted to. But I know there's people that
I think
retired from EMS from that group.
I think Jay-Z does that. The original Jay-Z talks about a group that does. I don't know, because I oftentimes talk about a buddy of mine who retired a couple years ago, Mary Tonda, and talk about how when she retired, that she was a rank and file paramedic, and when she retired, I was a deputy chief, and when she retired, that if she walked into a room and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, y'all, let's pump the brakes for a second, let's see what's going on," I always use that as one of my teaching stories to talk about that unofficial or that informal leader versus that formal leader, where I would, oh, what's going on if Mary Tonda recognizes something. But there's another person I feel inclined to tell the story. It's a brief one, not that you care anyways.
Thank you.
Because the story lives on, that this was an individual who I spent a summer volunteering before I got hired with this person in the bad old days when advanced intermediate was still a credential. And we would just run call after call after call. Who I was talking with his captain, I guess yesterday afternoon, and said, "Hey, did you hear so and so put in his paperwork?" And I had just seen that employee like a week before, who said, "I think we're about to close on my new house. Once we close on that new house, I'm putting in my paperwork." So I don't know. I think that's regionally we see different things, and in some of the agencies out here in the Northeast, we've been seeing some for a couple of years. So I don't know.
As deputy chief, being there in the area that you're in for so long, how many people, and I know you know one because you tell the story about him, how many people have you had retire from your organization or that you knew retired from an organization up there?
For my organization, I'm going to make up the number and say one to two,
Okay.
maybe three a year. It's not, believe me, it's not like a huge. It's not like 5,000 people.
Right.
But once people ticked that, 30, 35 years, that first core group of folks that the county hired, all timed out within about 3 or 4 years of each other, and so okay, you've got that domino effect up.
So if we're taking out retirement and saying that's probably not likely, and then you're going to say I don't see people leaving so they can go to school, so I'm going to say that's more likely but not common. Um, Career change, they were never EMS to begin with. Then that leaves the top four being low pay, lack of advancement, stress, and work life balance. And so the
But
John I
but
put it
but well, I didn't hear bad leadership in that.
correct. That is correct. That's what that was my lead in is like, you
Oh,
know,
my bad.
I expected to see
Oh,
that
that's
in
still
there.
your line.
Now
Cool.
Google could be wrong. I mean, but
Obviously.
you know, it's
Hold on. Let me get on Lycos.
Well, and I'm sure that I could add something to the question, but I basically asked, why do paramedics quit? And it give me that. And so it tabulates these things. So it's for conversation. I I know people currently that are acquaintances of mine that are working for places that they feel like are bad leadership, but they haven't left. I I don't know that I have a lot of people saying, take this job and shove it. Yeah, I want to leave. I'll share a meme. That's as aggressive as I'm gonna get. Is I'm gonna get on Facebook and be a gangster and say some Facebook stuff, and I'll share a meme. But other than that, I'm just talking. I ain't for
I
real.
think I think so. So here's a commonality that we haven't hit on with some stuff, and I have some speculation that I will not share, all being recorded, for why EMS folks don't get into politics. Do I talk about? I talked with Mrs. Sheehy about it a while ago, and this was her look. Well, she doesn't have glasses, but this is basically. Oh, she was not. She's not impressed. But what I would
I
say
have
is,
seen that look from her before. Oh, that's when I said, "Hey, you want to go get something to eat? Y'all want to go out and eat together?"
so if we were to say why aren't more EMS folks in politics, you've done a great job talking about I don't know what for the last I don't know how long, because whenever we're together, it's like time stands still. Like I'm caught in quicksand and cannot escape, and I'm about to die. And
Yet
so,
somehow continue to live.
yeah, only because you will die a year before I do. But that's
Yes.
a whole other podcast episode unto itself. If we talk about some of those agencies, some of those folks, and you talking about this, I remember us working with an agency that was in a transition, and it was maybe not the first, but that was one of the big times you and I hit the road and did some stuff. And talking with the folks at that agency, and them talking about the hours that they had worked that week. And I just remember being mind blown. You remember where this was, and me asking, "What are you doing?" And those folks saying,
My
"This is
community.
my community. This is my family, and I would be embarrassed if my family called 911 and they had to wait for the next county to send a truck because I didn't come to work today because I felt burned out." And so I think those are some of the things. If we begin to say, hey, why don't more paramedics, EMTs, that sense of want to leave things better, that sense of, in the words of Mr. Rogers, when you're seeing something bad happen, look for the helpers, look for the people that are out there helping. I don't know. We do that, whether it's on this podcast, whether it's the classes, whether it's the conferences, all of the different things. When I talk to somebody about stuff, it's I believe that you and I are making North Carolina a better place to live and to work, that we're making it safer for our families, that we're building a bridge to tomorrow, a stronger. And I think this is where we say that we should probably just launch. I think we should just start launch today. I would like to announce our candidacy for office, and we're going to run that long, slow burn to earn your vote and to show you.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but look, so I would say though, if you take a person from that agency, that reason for why they worked so much that they gave is a great motivator of politics. That's to
It
me,
is.
where's that to jump in? It's like because I want to see something, and then or the thing that we haven't talked about
Oh
is
God. Oh
when
God.
when you get into politics, all your dirt's gonna come out, right? And if there's one thing EMS people got, it's a ton of dirt. So I would say if I had to put the bajon in it, the reason why people in EMS don't get in politics is because you might learn a little bit more than, or there might be a little more that come out that wasn't, you don't necessarily want out there. Like, who you was, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, 90 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, 700 years ago, 800 years ago, 900 years ago, 1000 years ago, 2000 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, 700 years ago, 800 years ago, 900 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, 100 years that comes out and all of a sudden is important now that you've decided you want to run on a ticket. And I don't necessarily look at it that way. I don't really care what you did 30 years ago. I care what you're going to do 30 days from now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's still going to be a talking point or whatever. And I mean, and that may be the reason, but maybe this inspires someone to get in politics out there and really do that. And look, don't get me wrong, we do have a paramedic in politics that currently is in our legislature in North Carolina right now. So you knew that.
Yeah, I did. You told me about that. I think the average bear doesn't know that though.
No, they don't. They
But
don't.
I think if you so let's say, how about this? How many in the North Carolina Senate and House of Representatives, how many ordained ministers are there?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few. All of them are from Mitchell County.
I was gonna say, like that class we taught out in Mitchell County that one time.
With our Cook brothers.
Half of the class was ordained.
Right. That's right. Right. Um, you sparked a memory that I had about something. You were talking about going to take the state test or whatever, and I'll wrap all this up with this story. But we all piled in a car to go down on a Friday, because we were going to spend the night before. It seems like we were going to go down the night before, get up the next morning, and we were going to we had to do 6 skill stations right at a community college. That's how the old days were. And I remember it was me, my real best friend, and then seemed like there was a couple of other guys as well, right? And we all jumped in the car and started driving. And we drove for a long time. I wasn't driving, I was in the car. Now, this was no such thing as GPS back then, right? You didn't have no phone and everything, what it was like.
Was it a car or was it a wagon?
Yeah, funny, yeah, but
John Dutton on a wagon going west.
Definitely a vehicle. And we were driving, and dude was headed to Hendersonville. But that's not where our test was. Our test was in Henderson.
I know.
I don't know if you know your map very well, but that is the opposite direction of where we're going. So it seems like we drove quite a ways, and they'll have to remind me how far we went before somebody said, "Hey, I thought we were going to Vance Granville Community College." And they said, "Yeah, that's in Hendersonville." And they said, "No, that's in Henderson." And we were already several hours away. So we ended up having to turn around and drive to Henderson after leaving where we were at. Now, Henderson's already 2 hours away. We then drove an hour to 2 hours in the opposite direction.
That's what I was thinking isn't the community college where you tested, which is the same college where I tested, but a year later,
yeah,
13 months. When did you take your paramedic?
I don't remember. I can look it up, but
yeah, I don't know if they have stone tablets that go back that far.
No, but once I announce my candidacy in politics, they'll dig up all the dirt. They'll tell me.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be like, here's your life. So there's a part of me that wants to see some of this stuff. There's a lot of people I've forgotten in my life that they'll help remind me of, I'm sure. That's probably
John
not.
Wilson. This is your life.
I'd be more interested to see yours too, though, because you've been stuck in one place. At least I've bounced to different places and like.
No, sir. So this is to put the bow on your statement. is maybe that story of paramedics. Paramedics going to go take the test, and instead of turning east towards the rising sun, they face west towards that setting sun. And I don't know, maybe sometimes you gotta take a detour, and you gotta have a real best friend that shows up and really helps you light that way, and not have somebody who you think is your best friend and they lead you down the wrong path.
That's true. That's true.